First of all, I'd like to make it clear that I'm not asserting that any race is the master race, but I am asserting that intelligence is not understood and that all races are just about as intelligent as each other. There's no noticeable difference when you look at intelligence. With individuals, some individuals are talented in certain forms of intelligence, and there is a noticeable difference. But on average, when you look at races, having studied this for years and years, I don't see any noticeable difference. But when you're talking about martial arts, one would have to be completely dishonest to pretend that there is no noticeable difference between the races. When you look at the Asian body, okay, it's short and thin typically. This has allowed them to dodge and to develop certain fighting skills that suit their body type. That makes sense. And when they used the spear, it really helped them. They were a small target. They had range. They understood how to use their body motion, their full body, in order to do powerful thrusts, defensive blocks, and different spear forms and techniques. This helped them become a formidable fighting force when they complemented with armor, especially. A smaller target, very maneuverable, etc. When you look at the white people, you know, if you look at even their famous martial artists, Scott Adkins, Brett Foster, Jean-Claude Van Damme, okay, you see this kind of, I'd say around, 6 foot kind of, somewhat muscular. I'd hesitate, I'd say athletic, but not athletic in the sense that black people are athletic, and I'll get to that. This is useful in fighting people. This can give them the edge on an Asian person, but an Asian person could also have the edge on this person, because the martial arts that the white people are using are almost certainly designed for the Asian person. So what they lack in height, they make up for in, a smaller target and the fact that it was developed specifically for their body type. And then we look at Hispanics, okay? One could argue that they are at the greatest disadvantage because the martial art, they have a slightly different typical or average body type as Asians. And they have developed different combat forms for their people that have almost been completely lost in time. You don't see too many Native Americans and Hispanic people practicing their traditional martial arts. Some of them do, but you don't. It's not really as common as you see with, whites practicing martial arts all over America, and Asians. Okay. Now, I think history shows that I'm right about this, and I'm not saying that adjustments can't be made in combat forms. I can think of adjustments that could be made to help people with different body types, but I'm not going to help them. Why would I? Why would I spell it out for them? I'm not going to get paid for it. I'm not going to get anything out of it. Why would I help them compete with me? But the African body type, the average African body type, there are several different types. Some African tribes had shorter people. They were very short. They were very athletic. They used their kind of short and massive and maneuverable bodies to do flips and to do different athletic things, especially in Egypt and some Nubians and so on. But then you have this superior fighting force, which is the tall, athletic African. Now, you will find tall, kind of Abraham Lincoln type white guys, okay, tall and lanky, and they will try to apply their understanding of this body type to black people, and that is a grave mistake. That is a sad, pathetic mistake to make. Because typically a black guy who's tall and lanky, as you see with the NBA, is very athletic, and had they gone into fighting, they would be a dominating force on the battlefield, in the martial arts arena, what have you. So when you look at the Game of Death with Bruce Lee and I believe Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, if I'm not mistaken, okay, he is too tall to be described as what I'm talking about. The ideal African height is probably between 6'3" and 6'6" or 6'7". Any taller than that, and you do start having the same problem that white people have. White people and other races, you see with Yao Ming and other races, when they get tall, they get lanky real fast. Black people can get tall and maintain that athletic, typically, on average, a little bit better, and they can get a little bit taller and still be athletic, and still be pretty coordinated. White people, they get tall, they start getting lanky, very uncoordinated, goofy motherfuckers. Okay? Black people can maintain that coordination a little bit taller genetically, and maintain that power and everything they need to be a warrior. Part of this, I would say, is a result of breeding, of genetics. White people bred their warriors to be a certain way, and it kind of created this gene pool of a warrior being kind of stocky, from short and stocky to kind of tall and oaf-like, and kind of big biker guy or something, kind of, kind of white corn-fed football lineman, what have you. So when you're looking at transferable skills in combat skills and self-defense and sparring, the black body type that is around my height, around my build, is your ideal type. And this has helped me greatly over the years, taking advantage of my body type, but more effectively my speed, my dexterity, my clever fighting. Okay? Wise fighting techniques. It's the same problem that karate and taekwondo have when faced with kung fu, is the lack of techniques, applicable techniques that are wise, that can outmaneuver taekwondo and karate. Taekwondo and karate are very predictable compared to kung fu. And you see this in how a lot of their builds, okay? You look at the build of the Shaolin monk in Bruce Lee, it is a very specific, effective, practical build for what they're trained to do, okay? That's why Bruce Lee would have the advantage over Chuck Norris, even though he's a little bit shorter. He would have the advantage over Brett Foster. He'd have the advantage over Scott Atkins, but he would not have the advantage over me, because my body build allows me to take on his body build, with a lot more ease than anyone else's, any other type of body builds, because I'm more athletic than he is. He probably is more coordinated than I am, but I'm more athletic, I'm more intense, I'm just as fast as he is. I know all his tricks, he doesn't know all mine. It wouldn't really even be a fair fight. I'd probably beat him probably about 10-0. He'd have trouble getting inside. For the same reason he'd have trouble getting inside in a fight or a sparring match is the same reason if weapons were applied other than nunchucks, I would certainly stab him to death. He would die. I promise you this. There's no question in my mind. And if anybody has any insight into fighting, they know that I'm right. Anybody is honest and they're not going to let their racial prejudices and racial pride get in the way, they know that I'm right. They know that when you have an army of black people who are my build with spears, it is almost impossible to beat them without technology. Okay? Now, granted, there were also short black people who were great fighters. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the ideal fighting build. That is a tall black guy who's not too tall, with, a tall guy with black jeans, or your fucking freak of nature other race that manages to be tall and be just as athletic as the black guys who are tall, which you really don't see. But it does occur, but it's rare. It's very common with black people. So black people naturally have the edge in sports and, in most sports and in combat arts. And I'm not saying that they're superior because of it. I'm not saying anybody is superior to anybody. But from a warrior's perspective, black people have a superior body type. And I think we see this play out in boxing and, and even in the UFC to a certain extent. I mean, look at Johnny Bones Jones. Okay, he was called Johnny Bones Jones because they were trying to apply this misconception, this mainstream white misconception that if somebody's tall and lanky, magically they can't fight, magically they can't hit hard. Of course, that's not true. He was beating the shit out of people, and he was even grappling in a pretty superior manner, just fucking people up, just fucking them up. Thank you.